Before we dive in, just a quick favor. If you're enjoying what we're doing at Angels Among Us, please take a second to rate and review the show. And if something in today's episode touches your heart, please share it with a friend. Welcome to Angels Among Us, the podcast where we share real stories of angelic encounters. Each episode, you'll hear firsthand accounts of divine protection, guidance, and miraculous interventions that remind us we're never truly alone. Whether through a whisper of comfort, an unseen hand of protection, or an unmistakable presence, angels are closer than we think. Join us as we explore these powerful experiences of angels, both seen and unseen.
This episode discusses sexual abuse of a child, domestic violence, and drug abuse. While these topics are heavy, we believe in the power of God to bring light into even the darkest places. Please listen prayerfully and know it's okay to pause or step away if needed.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Angels Among Us. We have two angels here with us today.
Oh.
No, one and two.
You're so rude. I wasn't even ready for that. I was not even
I'm
ready
totally
for that.
kidding.
No, you're not.
No. So we have Toni with us, and Michaela's going to do a quick little introduction, and then we will let Toni do her own little introduction of herself as well, and then get going on to her story.
Okay, so I am going to try not to cry. That is very hard for me. But Toni, you guys, was my best friend growing up. She was part of my family. I was a part of her family. We did everything together, traveled together, all of it. From like what, Toni?
We met in 6th grade at the middle school.
6th grade? Yeah. And
but our families knew each other before. Anyways, go ahead.
Yes. Lots of good memories with Toni, and I'm so excited and honored to have her on our show, and she has an incredible story. So I've got my Kleenex, so
I don't.
ready to go.
All right.
So take it away, Tone.
Okay. I'm Toni. Toni Moore, live in Natchez with my kiddos. Big, huge blended family. I met Michaela, as she said, in the 6th grade. And it just was, girl friendship, girl relationship, back and forth, every other friend in between. And we always came back to each other. Even at the end of high school, there was some, like Michaela wasn't all the time at West Valley, and that's who I walked with at graduation. It was wild. It was like, okay, we're going to finish it, So yeah, I just think that we're brought back together again. I'm like, hey, what a crazy opportunity. Like, everyone's like, when are we going to get your full story? Like, in a nutshell. And I'm like, well, that'd take a long time, but here we are. Nutshell time, So, my story starts. And so the thing about me is that I've been really, really private. I know that I'm open with a select few people. And if you know, because you're like bracing yourself for what's about to come. And I want to start by saying I was raised in an absolutely beautiful family. I was not a negative statistic. My parents were married until the day my dad passed 3 years ago. I had amazing big siblings. I was taken care of. I was loved. Grew up in the Catholic faith, but I grew up with God, right? Like I grew up in a great, great, great home. And I think that that's why it's important for me to kind of open up and break that stigma that sexual abuse can't happen to you when you're in a tight-knit community and when you're loved from a family. I mean, you guys that know me, you know my family, and it's like, what? Like, when did it happen? Where did it come in? And that's the scary part, is that nobody knew until I was in my early 20s. So just to go a little bit into that, I was 5, the first memory that I have of my sexual abuse, and it was my next door neighbor's son. My next door neighbor was mine and my sister Megan's daycare provider from, Megan was like 1, and I started going there at 6 weeks. So when I say 5, that's my first memory. So in therapy, I've learned like there might have been stuff earlier. Does it matter? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't have memories of it. He lived there until I was an adult. I was pregnant with Gracie, who is now, gosh, going to be 12. And Layla was about a year when he was arrested, but with a very public story, sting, whatever. My mom called me one morning. She was getting ready for work, and I was, gosh, really pregnant with Grace, probably 7 months pregnant. And she was like, literally, the FBI just raided the house next door. And I'm like, okay, so whatever. Maybe I should go back a little bit. So I didn't tell anybody. When you're a little kid, I didn't know what was wrong. All I knew was that I didn't want my parents to be mad at Vicky and Ed. I didn't want them to be mad. And these people are, none of them are no longer alive. Like nobody's, like it's a public, you can Google all of this, their names are public knowledge. I didn't want them to be mad. And so I just was like, well, whatever, that's weird, uncomfortable, whatever. Now that I look back, freaked out. If I had a male swimming teacher, if I had a teacher at school that was a male, I did not do well in school. If there were certain male teachers or a certain vibe of a student that was by me, my mom and dad would have friends come over and I would go and hide under my bed for the entire time that they were there. So I didn't tell anyone. And that goes into the subconscious of it still frames your life even when you don't know what's happened or happening to you. So now that I have been through therapy, I've been through Christian counseling, I've recently, this last winter, now that I'm married and settled, I wanted to do it again because I'm safe now. I wanted to like refill it and re-navigate it, with this mindset. And she was like, she brought so much clarity when she said, you took on the role that you were assigned. And when you were little, it was, big sisters were kind of going through some stuff. Older sister Megan, had some weight issues. So she needed a little extra TLC here and there. Everything was like, Toni's fine. She's cute. She's skinny. Nobody's worried about her. So that was the role that I took on, was like, I'm fine. There's nothing to worry about here. So then any bad situation, whether it was done to me, whether it was a terrible situation that I put myself in, and bad stuff happened to me in those situations, it's like, well, I'm fine. I was told I'm fine, so I'm fine, and that's absolutely no fault to my parents. You assume like, when would it happen? Well, it was at daycare, and you don't need a time frame for these things to happen. So my kids have never gone to daycare. I will preface with saying that. And so, it framed who I was as a friend. I became a fixer at a really, really young age. I kind of let myself be the back burner friend. My parents weren't cool, fun parents. So it was like, Toni's house is the chill house. But my house was also the house with John and Linda, who people were like, there is no better couch to lay on than John and Linda's house. Kids that needed help would come to me knowing that my parents would help them. Like, that is where I get it from, both my parents. So talking about angels, at the time you're growing up, you're like, oh my gosh, my dad's so annoying. He wants to see my friend's car insurance before I'm allowed to get in the car. Like, Dad, shush. Like, this is so not cool. Even like Spanky would come over from the neighbors, and he was even terrified. I'm like, there's Dad. He's our neighbor. Like, it's fine. Stop. And he just was protective, and it still happened. But it changed the way that I viewed myself. And I think that's the bottom line, is that that was the moment that I allowed myself, or I told myself that I was less than, whether it was to men, whether it was to friendships, whether it was to jobs. I did not have the confidence to get a job. My first job was at McDonald's, and it's because my dad threatened my life, and thank God my cousin Justin worked at McDonald's, and I just got on real quick, I have not had confidence. I didn't go to college after high school. I got married really young. I met my first husband right out of high school in July of 20, gosh, I'm not going to say what year we graduated, right? And met him. We were super in love. Like, it was what it was. We were just young. And I had not even remotely navigated who I was outside of what I had told myself. I still hadn't told anybody what had happened to me. The moment, I remember the exact moment that it happened when I realized, like, like that's what that was. I was watching Law and Order, and many people that will watch this will be like, yeah, she's like, it was literally, I was watching it and it was just about molestation. It wasn't brutal. It wasn't super scary. And I think that that's why I pushed it off for so many years, is because it's like, well, it wasn't that bad. So it couldn't have been called that. Like, it couldn't have been that terrible, like I'm emotional. Toni's emotional. That's what it's always been like. She's emotional. She's drama. It's fine. So I was like, yeah, maybe I am. So brush it off. Finally asked my sister Megan, I'm like, hey, like, did this ever happen to you when we were next door? And she's like, no. What are you? And I'm like, well, so I told her, and she just, obviously, like, we got wrecked. It was probably 17 or 18 when I finally realized what it was, and told Megan. And it happened over, at least to my memory, a 6-year span. So at the time when my parents decided that we were old enough to stay at home after school and didn't need a babysitter is the last time. And I do have vivid memories of them. They're not graphic. They are very, like, my kids will not get a piggyback ride from a teenage boy. There are certain boundaries, like, because that's the kind of, those are the easy times when it can happen. Boundaries are such a huge, and I told you guys this before, my girls, all of my kids, they're not forced to hug you if they feel like they do not want to hug you. I do not say, this is your family, you will respect them, you will hug them. No, that is your choice. That is your body, your heart, your soul. If you don't want to hug someone, you don't hug them. At the time, if you're feeling a certain way in your head and you don't feel like a hug from your mother, you don't need to hug your mother. Teaching them that they are their own human, separate from being my child, is one of the biggest things that I have learned kind of from this. And I'm just here to teach them what I know, and then they're going to be their own adults. Like, you are not under me. You are not under my control for the rest of your life. So it's my job to teach you how to find and feel your own independence, and your comfortable areas. And when it's not, like, that's going to be you. So back to it, I told Megan, I was like, I don't want to tell mom and dad. I'm just like, I don't want to hurt mom's feelings. Linda is the last person on this earth that you want to freaking make sad. Like, I just can't, I do not want to break my mom's heart, whatever. Put myself in some really nasty situations, parties. And even though I wasn't like a super party girl, I put myself in environments that some really, really not so good things happened. And then I was officially one of those girls that's like, well, I'm the reason that I was there, so maybe that is my fault. So then again, brush it off. Or I went camping in high school without parents and this happened. Well, maybe it's my fault because I went camping without parents. And so again, brush it off. So then these things are stacking up, and that's my value, like, that's my worth. And it's like, gross. So that just, it hits me even more. And I finally told my mom, probably 20 or 21. I don't know how it came up exactly. I remember where we were sitting. I remember sitting on just right next to her, like in the living room. And I told her, and I'm like, I'm okay. Like, obviously. And she just started crying, and she said, there was one thing that I told myself when I became a mom, and that was that my kids would always, always, always be protected from people like that. And she was like, I thought that I had done it. And I literally in that moment heard her heart break as a mother. Like, you think you're in the clear, and you're hearing that this not only happened, but it happened to your baby, to your 5-year-old, until she was 11. And she smiled, and she told herself, nope, I'm fine. There's other people whose hurts are more important than mine. I'm fine. There's nothing visually wrong with me. I come from a great family. There's nothing to complain about. Suck it up. And we talked about, talking to dad, and it's like, gosh, I really don't know, because he might like actually kill somebody, Vietnam veteran, like truly might not care at this point in his life. And so we waited, and my mom really didn't want to, but I begged her. And it came down to, so as I was saying, when Matt was caught for child pornography, he had over 1,000 images of kids on his computer. Probably even more than that. Like, I say 1,000, but I really feel like it was multiplied. When you email something like that, it turns federal. So it's no longer just like a local. He was like nationally, they did a whole sting. They did everything. I don't know if I was in the pictures. I don't know if he ever physically touched any other girls. I don't know. At the morning my mom called me, and said like the FBI raided next door, like literal black vans, vests, everything, guns running up to the door, like wild. First thing in the morning, it was during the summer, and I was pregnant with Gracie. And it's the weirdest thing, because I felt bad for him. Like, I felt like, how scared is he right now? Like, I am that person that, like Stockholm syndrome, you feel for your abuser. Like, they're pitiful. You're so sad to me right now. And so he went to jail, went to prison. He was going to be in trial, but then like my stuff was so far before that, and there wasn't proof. I don't know or think that I was in the images. So it's like, I wasn't asked to testify in anything, but I didn't know. And because I was pregnant with Gracie, and I had had 2 miscarriages before that. I had 2 miscarriages, and I had Layla, and I thought I was not going to be a mom again. One of my miscarriages was directly before Gracie. Their due dates were literally 2 months apart. Like, it was insane. I found out I was pregnant, and I laid flat, and I prayed my hardest prayers and said, I will not do anything. I will not jump. I will not drink tea. I will not drink coffee. I will not have the lights too bright. Like, I will not hurt this baby. I will hold this baby. And so my mom was like, do you want to say anything? And I said, no, because that vibe, that energy is not allowed around my baby. I will not lose this baby. Not to him. Not to him. This is mine. She is mine. And that energy just was not allowed anywhere around my baby. So it wasn't allowed around me. So we were just going to let it go, kind of watching it. It was in the news stories and stuff. And my mom called me another day, and she was like, we have to tell your dad. I was like, I don't want to. No, we don't have to. No. She said, we have to tell your dad. He's going to write a character statement for him in court, because nobody knew what kind of man he was. Everyone thought he worked down in the deli at Race Thriftway. Like, he would give us burritos when we'd go down there for lunch and all of this. And I was like, no, he can't do that. So it was on a weekend. My whole entire family was randomly there. This is part of the angels. It's like, when you guys ask me about people, I feel like there's too many names. I feel like this was a moment that's like, why at the moment when I didn't want this energy around me, dad was going to do this. And it was a random weekend where my whole family, all 6 siblings, were together moving Megan home. And I had talked to each of my siblings before and said, like, I can't do this by myself. Like, I have to, all of you, even like my brother was even there. And we all stood out on the back deck, and we told dad, and there were no words. My dad when he was calm is when we were worried. That was really hard, because I felt like at that moment I was the one breaking my other parents' heart. Like, this happens to you, and this is why I didn't say anything so early on. I didn't want them to be sad. I feel like I'm strong enough to hold this. It's not mine to carry, that I'd rather carry it than those 2 people who help absolutely anyone who walks through their door. Whether they know you or not, you are theirs. So we had to let dad just like go on his walk or whatever. And his parents lived next to my dad and mom in the same house. until they both passed away. One was during COVID and one was the year after COVID. So for that many years, Grace was what, 7, 8 during COVID. So for 8 years, they stared at his car in the carport. And there was one time where the dad came out and was talking about it. And my dad told him, he's like, the things he's accused of are true. And I know that because he did it to Toni. And my dad was like, you should have seen his face. He said, you guys were his babies too. And he crumbled. And that grown man cried on the front lawn with my dad and saying, I am so sorry. There's absolutely nothing to say. Like, it just, when sin like that creeps in, it's just killer. So that was it. He ended up passing away. I knew where he was. That's what turned me into like the detective, being like you hear about like the wives that don't trust their husbands. Like, I will find these answers. That's what turned me into like a super spy. Took me a long time to find him, but I found where he was, and it was a federal prison in Texas. And, I saw his inmate photo, and I just looked at it and I'm like, again, just like sad, like that's super sad. He ended up passing away in jail due to COVID, but he was super bruised when he died from COVID, but he was a child predator. So you can connect, the COVID that killed him. And I was never afraid of him. And I think that was another scary part for me. And I hadn't told we told my parents, and we kind of just let it go because he was gone and whatever. And the moment that I became comfortable talking to friends about it or public, this is another, not necessarily people angel moment, but a setting, right? So we started going to Harvest. So the girls' dad and I got married. Part of our story, which I'll just very much touch on. When I met him, he was an alcoholic, and I didn't know that. I was like the stupid young girl that's like, oh no, it's just, exes always say that their ex is an alcoholic. Like, whatever, gonna be fine. He was an alcoholic. And I didn't know until I was 4 months pregnant with Layla that he was using meth. And I found out when he just kind of had this freak out, and I had to call the cops, and people were stalking me, and I'm pregnant. Like what's going on? So this is earlier than like the Matt getting caught thing. This is like 2010-ish. And he had to go to detox. He went to treatment. It was on Father's Day that he went to treatment. And the next day, that Monday, I went to my doctor's appointment, and my mom and my niece Abby were with me when I found out that Layla was a girl. Her dad was not there with me. He was in treatment. And so I printed off the ultrasound pictures and took baby pajamas there and told him to tell him he's having a girl. And he got sober, and I stayed with him. My dad opened his door, and because my dad was sober, he was sober from 83, and he passed in 2022. So he was sober for my whole life. I had never seen my dad drink. And I said, I want to stand by him. I want to be his wife. We want to have a family. This is my daughter's dad. Like I wanted, be a family. So my parents let him move in, and we all lived at my parents' house so that he could, get sober, stay sober. And we just really baby stepped our way through life. We lived with my parents for 6 months, his parents for 6 months, and then moved out on our own. And, I chose to be a stay-at-home mom. He worked. We lived on a farm. This is where I met a lot of my old friends as an adult. But everyone's like, where have you been? Like, where has Toni been? All of these years. Well, I'm just having a family. Like I'm, this and that. So he was sober. He got sober in 2010. Good years. We started going to Harvest. This is when going back to the sexual abuse kind of coming out publicly. So we went to Harvest. Jason and Christy Williams are absolutely 2 angels. They have moved out here, church planted from Michigan. And I'm like, how are these people in Sela. Like, this is insane that we get them. They took us in as a church family, and I was very new trying to get out there and go to a Bible study. And so we were doing a Bible study at a women's Bible study. It was the Lisa Turkhurst, and it was the Best Yes. And it was all about saying yes to yourself. Like, what is your best yes? What is a yes for Michaela? Like, what is a yes for Toni? Not your husband, not your kids. Like, you give to them. What is a yes for you? Saying no to someone else for yourself is a great thing to give yourself, investing in your art, you know? And we just started talking about, gosh, I don't even really know how it got led to the conversation, but the night before we had been at a pampered chef party at my friend's house, like super random, like super party. And the kids were all running around, and it was a super close friend. Layla went to school with the kids, and she had a little boy who, like, 5-year-old, like, trying to kiss her and Layla was like, no, you may not kiss me. I didn't even let you hug me. Like, just totally was like, no. And she was like, Mom, I told him no. And I was like, okay, girl, like, good for you. And so I was telling this story to the Bible study. And at that moment I realized, and this is when I lost it. This is literally the shift for me, where it's like a before this and an after this. At that Bible study, I was like, my 5-year-old daughter said no. Whether it was to a little kid and it was during play, and we're still great friends, like, whatever. She said no. And I didn't. That is when I realized that I had the opportunity to raise kids without my trauma. And to this day, those 2 girls are literally the absolute best parts of my soul without trauma. Layla is wise, and she is, like, calm, and she's just a quiet leader. And Gracie is every bit the quirky, loud, funny nerd, takes her art stuff everywhere, like, doesn't care about her matching one high black sock and one low white sock, like, doesn't care. Untouched. They are the untouched parts of my soul. And that was the moment. That was the moment that I was like, no. And so after that, they asked me, a couple of the leaders, speaking of angel women, Linda and Debbie and Christy, they were my absolute angels. They were just harvest women, and they were like, stay after, we want to pray with you, we want to talk about you. And they helped me get into Christian counseling. And they were like, we want to love you through this, and we want to support you, and, you know, all the things. So I did. I went to it, and that was the first moment that I kind of found the tiniest version of myself. Like, the very, very tiniest version of, like, this is a job of mine. Something's going to happen with this. So then just stayed loving my Bible studies, loving my church family, loving all of this. Flash kind of through all of the years up to COVID. Like I said, we lived on a farm. We did this. We were private. He didn't drink. I didn't drink because I supported him. I really, really tried to do everything that I could to be a wife and a mom and have this great family. And then I started coaching volleyball again, and slowly with these little jobs. It was like volleyball was very part-time. I got a job teaching at a local private Christian school, and that was a step up hour-wise, you know, to be away from the home. And it was then that I saw the cracks in his, not confidence, but insecurities as I was out in the world. Like, where are you going? What is going on? Like, this is not what we signed up for. It was very like, we were fine if we were right here, but even remotely being outside just shut down. Like, well, if you're doing that, I'm going to do that. And it just exploded from there. During COVID, he was an essential worker, and I was still teaching, but we were all at home. And he relapsed. And it wasn't just a relapse. He had been kind of inching that way before then. There were, you know, addicted personality type people. They find another addiction, right? So it's like, oh, I do this. And our thing was like, I work out. Well, that became an addiction. And then, steroids got involved. And when I chose to stay with him back when I was pregnant with Layla, I chose to stay with him. And that meant not clinging to or having resentments for the things that almost broke us. It was like, nope, fresh start here. So I never went back to, well, you did this, you did that. Like, no, I chose to stay. So this is on me. If, we're going to make this work. So I brushed it off. It's like, nope, he's not doing that. So this must be better. It was just always that, right? So then cigarettes came back into it. And I'm like, well, this is weird, but it's still not super scary. And then it crashed. Then it was meth again. And I had a 6 and an 8-year-old, 7 and 9, whatever their ages were. I had 2 little girls and was trying to then hide some really, really not fun, emotional, verbal, never physical, because you can see that. That was hard. That was hard for my heart. Because I was a mom at that point and wanting to keep my girls on the right track with their boundaries and standards, yet trying to navigate where do mine come in. Mm-hmm. And you want to stay a mom, or not a mom, you a wife, you want to support and you want to do what God asks. And I had already been divorced. It's like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to be another failure, because I see these as my failures. I don't see these as someone else is making choices that is causing this for our family. I see it as I must have done something wrong, stemming back to the 5 years old. I must have done something wrong. I must have, led on, or what, as a 5-year-old can lead on, whatever. And so, December of 2019, he started having kind of just high blood pressure attacks, going to the hospital and that. Well, that's when the meth was back, and I just did not know. I didn't know until it was January, and I walked in my room and I found a pipe, and my kids were out in the living room, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, I get super hot right now just thinking about that feeling. Like, this is in my house and my kids are right here. And from that was the next kind of moment where I think that's where like the mama bear came, the unapologetic Toni of like, I was nice until I wasn't. And I'm really, really, really forgiving and gracious until I get to a certain point. And when I get to that point, you're not going to talk me out of it. So I stayed. I made, a line in the sand. I said, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. Then COVID hits and nobody can go anywhere, like not even to the doctor. So there is no treatment. We live in the same house. This is a very, very angry drug. And again, nothing like super terrible happened, but hiding under blankets for sure while he screamed at me outside the blanket. Having doorknobs taken off so that he could get into the bathroom that I locked myself into while my girls are out here. Layla put on some weight and he yelled at me that she was getting fat through the house. And it was my fault because I was the one feeding her and this and that. Well, stress does that to kids, and Layla heard that. So Layla has a completely different view. She has her own story of what we've been through because she was old enough. Gracie was, young and just like yelling and meanness. And she was like, would kick him and be like, stop doing that, but Layla, like I said, she's wise and she's very silently intelligent. And, so then 2020, he kept telling me he was done off of it. I'd find it more like we just went through that whole thing that you go through. Mother's Day of 2020, he took the girls shopping for me and I found, I'm not even going to say it out loud. It's super gross, but I found some super nasty stuff and realized it was still going on. And when he came home, I said goodbye and I took the girls and I left and I went to my mom and dad's house on Mother's Day of 2020. Ended up getting him to go to treatment. He went to an actual trauma treatment center in Utah, which was wonderful. It was amazing. I want to go there. Like, can I get the money to go for my own? Like, let's do it. It's, it's hard, but like, yes, please. And he did it, and it was when he was gone, I was terrified at first. I had never lived alone. I lived with my husband, and then I lived with my second husband. I had never had my own apartment. I had never been independent like that. I for some reason, clung to men, needing maybe to prove myself to men. I don't know, still navigating that whole thing. But that's when I was like, oh, like, I can do this myself, and I'm not getting screamed at all the time. Like, okay, this might be a thing. He came back, same thing as before. I'm choosing, this is my, like, new foot forward. We're not going back here. I really don't, I guess I could say I'm really self-aware of the energy that I allow around myself. I very much choose, this is who I am, where I am. This is not allowed. And if I find it creeping in, I'm like, no, this is not allowed. So I don't bring resentments forward. I'm very much, I pride myself in that, actually. And so he was using within 2 weeks of coming home. That was July of 2020. And I was happy. We went on an anniversary trip in September. Our house almost burnt down in the weenass from the wildfires. We had to evacuate. Like, all of this is happening, and he's still using, and I'm just thankful that he's sober. Like, I'm just like, oh, this is great. And he's lying. So then birthdays happen, Christmas happens. My dog had puppies. So now I have 3 dogs and 5 puppies. I'm back to work because COVID's reopening. Kids are in school part-time. So I'm like halfway doing this. And then I realize he's using again. So I'm like, okay, still not telling anybody. My family did not know, because I was trying to be strong. Again, like, this is what I asked for. It's my job to work for this. Very silent about it. I had 2 friends that knew everything. Emily and Ashley knew what was going on. Emily is someone we went to high school with, and we did not know each other, like whatever. Talk about someone who was in your life before and now is like probably the one person, even over my siblings, who can hurt my feelings with the truth. And I'm like, you're probably right. Like, if you're saying it, it's probably right. She is such a brutally honest, loving friend that is not afraid for me to hurt to make me better. She was there for all of it. The ugly, her husband was there through it all with the ugly. And it was February of 2021. And I finally I was working at the preschool, and I was like, I just need to be done. I need to do this. Well, Emily was my aide at the preschool, and she knew what was going on clearly. And she's like, you have to make the choice finally, She ended up grabbing my phone and looking at the text messages that he was sending me. And she just started bawling in our classroom. And she's like, Toni, this is not okay. Like, this is scary stuff. This was a year almost to the day that Emily Harris was killed in Sela by her husband. And Emily was like, this is not going to happen again in our community. Like, you have to leave. You are leaving. You are leaving. This is not happening to you. He was going to kill me. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the courthouse and just get the booklet. If I got the do-it-yourself divorce booklet, it was a step to myself that I'm willing to do this. I'm serious this time, whatever. So I just got the booklet. And I mean, this is this sad and scary side that I don't think a lot of people talk about, whether you're a man or a woman leaving an abusive relationship. Stalking is really, really scary, and it messes with your psyche like you would not believe. I got a text as I was walking into the courthouse that says, you better not have my children at the courthouse. Why are you taking them there to do that? And I'm like, looking around, like, can he see me? Whatever. Didn't know. Throughout, I mean, at my work, I called the sheriffs from my work. Some people might remember, he was posting stuff on my Facebook. He had hacked my Facebook and was writing really, really personal and yucky things. Some true, some not true. And I'm just like, what do I do? Like, I can't even control what my family is seeing, what my pastor is seeing, like what is going on right now. So that was a Tuesday. I got the book. I went to the class, and he knew that I had the book, because I was like, yeah, you're right, I did get the book. I was gonna like be stern behind my tears and like, no, I'm done with this. We're done. That's when the death threat started. And that's when I was like, oh, well, this is actually something to maybe like take seriously. Just some things like, you don't know what it really feels like to be scared, but you're about to. And you're never going to want to turn around ever again in your life to see who's behind you. Like just psyche stuff, you know? And so my kids were finally home. He walked in from the backyard. He was always outside doing his thing, and he would come in and just a rage. And he came in that night and screaming like, well, your mom and I are getting a divorce, and you're welcome, and she's splitting up our family, just kind of this whole thing. And Layla's face just dropped, because that's a child's worst fear, right? Like that is your security. No matter how bad it is, you're like, this is the worst. Like we can't get a divorce. What? Gracie was little, just running, like screaming, like, no, stop yelling, this and that. Went back to the room, and that was it. And I trying to calm down Layla, and I finally called my mom. And so this is February, and he had been home from treatment since July and using, and nobody knew. So I was like, hey, sorry, like gonna catch you off guard. Not good news, but he's using and I need to leave. And she was like, okay, yeah, like, yes, let's do it. I already had bags packed. I was that woman. I had hidden bags packed. I had been stashing away $5, $1 bills, hiding in a shelf under things. Like I was already packed. I already had a bag for my girls randomly thrown to the side. I was already ready. And so then I'm like, got off the phone with my mom, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. This is okay. It's happening. I get a call, and this is probably the most, talking about angels, the most random, because so I got a call from my sister, Megan, best friend, 1 year apart. She's like, and so Megan's husband, Justin, is a thorn in my backside. Like we very much love each other, but he is just my backache. Megan calls and says, Justin said, get your stuff and get to the house right now. And when I heard that Justin said, bring your kids, all of your dogs, get out right now, and we will meet you at our house. They were at mom and dad's, and mom hung up the phone, and Megan called, and it was Justin. Everyone, you know, Justin's one of those guys that's just like gruff and like just gruff, right? Like you think he's a jerk, but he's not. He's really, really sweet. You just have to get to know him. Like, and that's why I'm like, why are you such a jerk, dude? Like we should just love each other, you know? And he's just such a pill. And he was the one that said, get out. You're coming to our house. Get out. And they live clear out in the boondocks in Natchez. And so I did. I got our bags, and he was still awake in the back. And so I'm waiting for him to come out and not let us leave or hurt me, or like, if this is our time to go, this is our time to go. Me and my daughters. I mean, my kids would leave. Maybe I shouldn't be saying these details. My kids would leave toys outside, and he would shoot them if they did not pick their toys up. Like, if you're in a relationship and this is happening and you're thinking like, this is just their version of showing our kids a lesson. This is not a lesson. This is not a lesson for your kids. Telling you're going to shoot a dog if it's not quiet when it's walking up and down the hall. This is not a lesson. We're not desensitizing our hearts to these things anymore. This is what I mean by like, my life wasn't brutal, but it was a whole bunch of little tiny things that when you say it all together in one story, it's like, why are you not broken down right now? Like, why are you not an alcoholic? Why are you still such a faithful and trying to be a better human. Like, what is this? And that's the God thing. I don't have an answer. Like, I have been literally carried my entire life. So I left. I got the 5 puppies. Like, we took 7 dogs and 2 kids and Auntie Toni to Megan's house that night, and we all stayed in one tiny back room, and it was terrifying and the best moment of my life, because I drove away unhurt. My kids were unhurt. My girls said, "Yes, Mom, please, let's leave." And still more stuff happened. Stalking happened. I mean, even through getting a restraining order. We have a lifetime restraining order, myself and my kids. So we haven't seen him since that night that we left in February of 2021. And I stayed hidden for a while. Trying to make a long story short, I had a tracker on my car. There was a secret app on my phone that it doesn't show up as an app, but they can see your keystrokes. So when I was Googling, like, what is domestic violence, I got a text from him that said, "Domestic violence, really? You're such a victim." Like, I was never safe. I was never safe. I couldn't sleep. It was awful. It was awful. I forgot to say that I started YVC for trauma school in 2019, right before all of this happened. So during all of this, I was also in school, going at night and working during the day and being the mom. Stayed in school, emailed. I was actually in a chemical dependency class at that time. And I emailed my professors and I'm like, "This is what's going on. I'm just being honest. Like, I might not get my stuff in on time." And my professor of chemical dependency was like, "You are literally living what I'm trying to teach people. Like, you do not have to you just stay alive and we'll get you there." Stayed in school. I did not quit. I wanted to quit at one point, but I didn't want to quit because I was like, kind of like with the Gracie and the Matt thing, like, you're not touching my daughter. Same as, like, that's when their dad turned into, like, this is not your future anymore. This is mine and my girls. So I stayed at YVC, did my schooling from Meg's house. She's the one that was like, "We need to go to the court and at least see what it takes to get a protection order." I did all of it myself. I sat and, again, got messages that said he was watching me at the courthouse while I was doing that. So an officer sat with me at the courthouse while I filled out my protection order with tears and shaking and sweating and recalling every detail. And got it filed, and I took myself to court every day, and I sat there and I prayed. And I was already going to school for trauma psychology when all of this was happening to me. I was in the psychology, just the very, very AA side of it, but I knew that I thought, like, child trauma. And then here I am going through this stuff that's like, why not teach other women? Why not, like, use the junk in my life to help other people, to be able to talk to somebody who's been through it and to hear their super duper ugly story. It's so different than, like, I went to school and I read the books, right? So I did. I stayed and I got my own little rental in Glade, which it's now my house. I bought it so that I have something that's mine, something that nobody could ever take away from me. I was told, "This is my house. You didn't work. You get out. I'll hire a nanny and leave my kids here." Like, nope. So I have a house that's mine, that I rent to people who need a house at the drop of a hat. Met my super duper handsome husband after Megan's bridal shower, and we just went out dancing one night, and this stocky little cowboy comes up in the drink line, and I'm like, "Well, why are you hugging my sister? She's getting married." Like, super attitude. Like, get off of her. Don't hug my sister. We're here to get married. And he looks around Megan and he's like, and he goes, "You are the most beautiful creature I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So then I'm like, and I'm like, "Go ahead, you can flirt. It's not going to happen because I'm never getting married again. Like, you can try, buddy. It's not happening." And he's literally in the back because I married him. But he is the sweetest part of my life. He is absolutely, I I do not deserve his patience. I don't know. I have had to really, I've taken the last year. We did not live together really before we got married, because even though it's like, oh, that's your third wedding, and you guys are just, it's nowadays, so like just move in, do all of the things. And we were like, no, we want to show our kids that marriage is a commitment, living together is a commitment. And so I had my house and he had his house, and we still had family parties, we still did family trips, but we had our own houses because I needed my girls to see that you pick yourself up and you cry and you hit the floor and you do all the things, but you take care of yourself. And he would have absolutely done absolutely everything for me had I asked. But he knew that was my goal. And even in my most stubborn times, he was like, nope, when it would be easy. Nope, we won't do that, because that's not what we chose. And that's hard when a woman is crying and saying, it'll be so much easier. He's like, nope, that's not what you want. I know that. And Jason didn't need to be vetted by my family because he knew my family. He knew my dad 20 years before I met him. When my dad worked at ACT now getting people jobs for vets, remember when he would get people jobs, Jason had his first business and he would call my dad for temp guys. And so when Jason called my dad after we met, my mom kind of already knew, because I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, this guy. And she's like, I already know Jason. Like, he's always over at Megan and Justin's house for barbecues. And I'm like, no, he's not. And she's like, yeah, no, literally he is, like, for the past 3 years. But I was so blinded. I was so not, I would get in trouble for even talking to my sister at my sister's house at a barbecue. So like, I just very much did not know people. Oh yeah, he was there. Like, that's really crazy. So then Jason calls my dad and he's like, hey, John, I want to have a meeting with you, blah, blah, blah. So he gets, button down shirt, puts gel in his hair, and goes and texted my mom. And he was like, here, you guys going to be home? And my mom was like, yeah, what's going on? And so then shows up and he knocks on my parents' door, and I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea till afterwards. And he's like, hey, John, whatever. And he's like, hey, bud, come on in. Blah, blah. But we're going to have to make this quick because I have a meeting with a guy coming up. Because Jason had texted like, hey, it's Jason. Can we meet up? He's like, yeah. Jason comes and he's like, I have a meeting. Make this quick. What do you need? Blah, blah, blah. Thought it was for work, right? And he's like, no, I'm here to talk about Toni. And my dad was like, my Toni? Like, what? He goes, no, I'm meeting with Toni's pastor, Jason. And he's like, no, I'm the Jason that you're meeting. And he goes, what did she do? Thank you, Dad. He was there to tell my mom and dad and that he had met me and that he was interested, and that he wanted to tell them as my parents that he wasn't there to mess with my heart, and that he wanted to get to know me, and that my daughters and my schooling would always come first, and he was not going to pressure me in any way. He would not disrespect me in any way. And he sat in the living room and asked my parents permission to get to know me. He said, I know what she's been through, and I promise to, if I can't be safe with her, I will let her go. And so he asked them that permission. And of course it was like, my dad got sarcastic and told him I was a basket case and all these fun things. And I always mix it up and I'm like, babe, I'm your gift basket. And he's like, that's not even what he said. I'm like, yeah, but it sounds so much better, doesn't it? Like, yeah, you're such a gift basket. So anywho, I'm his gift basket wrapped. But Dad only was alive for another year after that. So we dated a year when Dad passed, and that was April of 2022. Dad passed, and it was December of 2023 when Jason asked me to marry him. But I always feel like Jason got his permission from my dad to marry me. And he's so unbelievably thoughtful. Like, he probably is the number one, like, special angel, like my gift basket. Like, he is my angel that's not here to do anything but love me. Like, absolutely the most unconditional love that I still don't feel like I deserve. Like, even now, I got like kind of a wild job offer that's like, well, okay, like we might do it. And he's like, do you see now? Like, do you see now that you deserve this? And I'm like, not really, no. Like, he's like, you don't see this that you've done and this that you've done. And you graduated with your psychology degree and 2 minors in the top 3% of your class from Central while being a single mom by yourself, doing this, raising these humans who these girls are completely different versions of themselves than the day that we walked out of that house. And I can take credit, but I can't take credit. Like, I do feel like I've been, one of my gifts is like a weird authenticity. I'm not afraid anymore. It's like for so many years I was afraid of what people thought, and now it's nothing. Like, if you have a problem with me, that's your business, and if you want to know more of my ugly side, sweet, cool. You're not going to use it against me because I am best friends with my demons. They do not scare me. I'm so much more than any of the 7 billion things that have happened to me that's like, go ahead and try me. You're just going to like weirdly make me stronger. Another super duper angel is Brenna. We reconnected after high school, and Layla was 6 months old when we just started texting. And I think I've seen her twice since high school, but we've texted probably nearly every day since Layla was 6 months old. And she's just that weird support from far away, and the cheerleader, and just the crazy authenticity that's like weirdly so proud of you, like just a weird cheerleader, like all of this. So I feel like it's too hard to identify an angel around me. I feel like there have been moments, but I feel like I love finding blessings in everything. And I think it's because so much of my life was hard that now I only want to see the beauty. Like, that's where I came up with the Brenna thing. She said it best, because she was there for all this weird, hard stuff. And she's like, are you done with hard yet? Like, I feel like you've met your quota. Like, you should be fine. And so she always called it, we're on like level 786 of Jumanji. Like, can we not keep going, Toni? Can you please just settle? And like, I tried, I knit. I started knitting. Like, maybe this will calm me down. Nope, let's just blow your life up right here. But then it makes me a new version of myself. And so now I'm married, and I've taken the last year to just be, and to heal, and to let my body come out of fight or flight mode, and to be loved, and to enjoy my kids. And I mean, I started a coffee shop, so I kind of need to quit like starting new things, but I'm able to use that to reach people, like my coffee shop is in a harder neighborhood of Yakima. And so I get to talk to people who need people, and I get to love people. And I'm not working with my degree, but it's almost like the schooling and the structure that I needed to have during my schooling is what taught me. It is where I found that I am in control. I got my grades because I worked for my grades. You find anyone around Natchez and they'll be like, Toni finally put her computer down after 4 years because I worked for it. It was finally my control, right? And I just, it's so hard to find one angel or one blessing, because I can look at every aspect of my life. I can look at this, and like a year ago, I would have never said, I'm going to be on Michaela's podcast finally talking about my huge story. Like, people are like, when are you going to write a book? Because there really is so much to say. This is an experience that I put on that tally line of like, who knows who's going to hear this? And you are the one bringing it to me.
Well, that's over here.
Isn't it crazy? Like,
just a full circle.
It really is. And it's like, and we're not even old. Like, we're still 23 and we're getting all of these great opportunities.
I wish I was 23 still. No, I don't.
I know. You could not pay me to be 23 again, bro. I will not do again. There are no repeats. You want to know what Jason, my dad told Jason when he married me, that he had a poor return policy on me, and there were no return. Dad.
Well,
Whatever.
I don't know. I know you don't know this, but before we were able to have our kids, we had reconnected, and I had come to your house, and we had been in the car. I don't remember where we were going, but the girls were in there, and I just remember knowing at that moment that, like, I had one of the biggest inspirations in you because of how you taught your kids. And I just remember when I have kids, when I'm able to have kids, this is how I want to be as a parent. And I still, to this day, no one can tell me, like, well, you know, every parent is different or whatever. Every single time I always go back to you because I always know that this is how I want to be. There are good parents out there, and we are their role models. So we are the ones that are responsible for teaching them how they should behave, or whatever the case may be, and what they should accept and what they shouldn't accept. And you just have been that role model for me. And I really, honestly, genuinely think of you often in parenting and what a good parent looks like. So you've done a lot of good things right. So
I can vouch for that. She came home one time and said, Toni is exactly the mom I want to be.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm
ugly cry. You guys can do this to me.
But I'm so glad that I'm able to be happy right now, because an hour ago and leading up to about the last 15 minutes of your story, I don't like that feeling. I was not happy, it's really uncomfortable to talk about the things that you've been through. And
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's stuff that needs to be talked about, and parents and adults, we need to be better at talking about it and talking to our kids about it, and making sure that our kids are comfortable talking to us. We are their safety, and we have to protect them. Not that your parents didn't protect you, because you touched on that. And but somehow we just, as a society, we have to know that this is an issue, and we just have to be better.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair, and it makes me really angry. Just the thought, like, it just, I'm not an angry person at all. But there are some things that I would.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing,
like your dad.
and this is like, you guys haven't seen my kids for years, and they still, when I'm like, oh, Brent and Michaela started a podcast and I'm gonna be on it, it's crazy. They're like, Layla's like, what if you guys go viral? I'm like, you're such a 14-year-old. Stop talking. What's the UV outside? Go do something. But
tell her to share it.
But this is how I gauge the people that are around. Like you're saying, like, it's freaky. Like, it makes you sweat. It makes you almost suffocate, because it's like, I'm not going to do enough, right? When someone is new to my life or old to my life coming back, I look at my kids. Do my kids feel comfortable with you? If, God forbid, my daughters or my sons or my husband, anybody ever felt like they were in a situation and they were in Tri-Cities with their friends, right? Like, what if the girls are like, I made a bad decision. I did something stupid, but I want to go home. I know that I could find Michaela or Brent online and I could call them and they would be right here.
Oh gosh.
That is how I gauge who comes into my children's life. If I know that my daughters, there are people that I still don't get along with, that I know my girls, if they were on the side of the road, you would pick them up. That is our village. And if you don't meet that, if I don't feel like you meet that, it's no hard feelings. It's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
If my kids feel like they could come to you and you would save them or help them and they were afraid to talk to me, I am blessed by that.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a lot of thought into who's around my kids. And I know that they would come to you guys on your doorstep if they would, you'd be like, who's this giant? Like Layla's like 5'7". You're like, who is? And she just, but they know. And that's who you guys are without knowing who you are to people. And that is relationship. And that is talking and stories about this. And I told Layla, she's looking at pictures on my phone. I said, aren't you glad now that you have a mom who takes too many pictures? She's like, yeah. Be that parent. Talk. Be uncomfortable. Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you're uncomfortable? That your kid has more knowledge. And maybe you're both uncomfortable, but guess who they're going to say, we can go talk to them if we're in trouble. You're going to teach them. It might be uncomfortable, but we'll be okay. We'll survive the uncomfortable. And I tell my kids, I would rather you hurt me with a very, very hard truth than ever lie to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hurt my feelings with the truth, because a lie's going to hurt worse. So let's do it. Close your eyes, sit outside the door and tell me if you need a boundary between us. Let's do it. Text me, write a note, and put it under my pillow. We can talk that way if that's the easiest for you.
Chills on that.
That sounded like the perfect advice for people. We usually like to ask for advice, but that was perfect. So we'll end with this. We'll give you an opportunity to be able to share something that you know to be true.
I actually thought about this too. So Michaela probably remembers my dad always saying, and we thought it was so cheesy. We were like, Dad, stop with your one-liners. Don't forget who you are. Every time we walked out the door, don't forget who you are. We're like, okay, Dad, I'm Toni. Like, I know who I am. Bye. Right? But that hits heavier as you're an adult. And literally now, my truth is that I know exactly who I am. And I don't let a person or a situation or a fear change who I am. There is absolutely nothing in this world that can change my character. You can treat me bad, and I'm still going to pray for you. I pray for my ex-husband. I feel bad for him that he doesn't get to know these girls, that I am so blessed. I, of course, don't want him to ever see something like this and hear how he's hurt us. But if I could and say, dude, like, get it together. Let's go. You're missing this. I would welcome his heart to get better and to know our girls. Like, I think that's where I was a fixer before, right? But now I got the logical side of me that's like, if it's your choice to make something better, but you don't affect me, I know that I am Toni Jean Ison to my core. And I am the daughter of John and Linda, and they were two phenomenal human beings. Mom still is, that's going to be weird. But Mom, I love you. Dad, you too, bro. But John and Linda, like, as their own humans, epic. And I get to be the best of both of them. And that's my truth. It's just so comfortable. It's so peaceful, and I love it.
I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy with where you are at. You deserve it, sister. And I know that your dad had a lot to do with that. And I mean, even though he was here on earth, at that time you guys met, I know that there's some
super
of him.
God's having fun with, like, guess what you get now?
You deserve it.
A mini version of your dad as your husband, who wears tall socks with his slippers to Fred Meyer. Love you, babe. Love you. I love him. Well, he's my sweet, handsome man. I love him. I'm so blessed.
Yep.
Thank you guys for providing this opportunity for people to talk, because it needs to happen more. and it's gonna do something big. I don't think you guys realize it yet, but when I was telling Layla about it, she's like, I'll talk. If they ever want to talk to a teacher, they're like, I'll talk. I'm like, girl, let's go.
We have plans.
Yep. Keep us in your plans.
Will do. Sure. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for being an angel to many.
Yes.
Thank you guys. I love you.
We love you.
Thanks for joining us on Angels Among Us. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow along for more stories of everyday miracles and reminders that angels are among us. If you have a story to share, please email or DM us with a brief summary. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, when we are waiting, God is working.